Sometimes, life brings people back when you least expect it. For Daniel, a single dad from Ohio, love had been a closed chapter, something that belonged to his past, sealed away with the memory of the girl he once dreamed about. But fate had other plans. It all began on a sunny afternoon, at a wedding he almost didn't attend. By the time the music faded and the guests raised their glasses, Daniel's world was about to change forever, because across the dance floor stood the woman he once loved, and the secret she carried would leave him speechless. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share if you enjoy stories that touch your heart and remind you that kindness still matters. Welcome to your channel name, where every story shines a light on the good we can still find in this world. Now, let's begin. Daniel Reed wasn't the type of man to believe in second chances. At 36, his days revolved around his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, and the small carpentry shop he ran out of his garage. Life wasn't easy, but it was honest. Every morning started with pancakes shaped like hearts and ended with bedtime stories and laughter echoing through their tiny apartment. Lily was his everything. Her mother had left when she was barely 2, leaving Daniel to figure out fatherhood on his own. He never complained. He believed in doing right by people, in being kind even when life wasn't. Maybe that's what made him so respected in their small town. He always helped others, even when he had little himself. So when his old college friend Mark called to invite him to his wedding, Daniel hesitated. He didn't have fancy clothes, didn't have a date, and couldn't afford a big gift. But Mark insisted, saying, "Your family, Dan. Just come." After much thought and a push from little Lily, he agreed. "Go, Daddy," she giggled. "Maybe you'll meet someone nice." He laughed it off. "Not likely, kiddo. I think that part of my life is done." The wedding was held in a grand vineyard just outside Cincinnati. White roses, glowing lanterns, and laughter filled the air. Daniel stood quietly near the back, wearing his best shirt, one that had seen a few too many days in the sun. He smiled, clapped, and even danced a little when Mark and his bride shared their first dance. But as the evening stretched on, he decided it was time to leave. Then he heard a soft voice behind him. "Daniel Reed? Is that really you?" He turned and froze. There she was. Emily Carter. The girl he had fallen for 15 years ago, back in college. The girl who had left town suddenly, chasing dreams he could never compete with. She hadn't changed much. Her chestnut hair still fell in soft curls, and her smile still carried the warmth he remembered. But there was something different about her now, a quiet confidence, an aura that drew people in. "Emily," he breathed. "Wow. It's been a long time." 15 years, she said, smiling shyly. "You remembered." He chuckled softly. "Some people you don't forget." They talked for hours that night. About college memories, old friends, and the wild paths their lives had taken. Daniel spoke about Lily, his pride and joy. Emily listened intently, her eyes softening every time he mentioned his daughter. She didn't say much about herself, only that she worked in business. Daniel didn't pry. He was too busy laughing, really laughing, for the first time in years. When the night ended, Emily touched his arm and said, "I'd love to meet Lily someday. You always said you'd be a great dad. Looks like you were right." He smiled. "Any time. She'd love you." Over the next few weeks, they started talking again. Texts turned into calls. Calls turned into coffee dates. Then picnics at the park with Lily tagging along. Emily was amazing with her. She brought art supplies, baked cookies, and listened to Lily's endless stories about fairies and frogs. Daniel couldn't help but notice how naturally she fit into their little world, like she'd been missing all along. Still, a question nagged him. Why did Emily always dodge questions about her life now? She drove a modest car, dressed simply, and never mentioned her job in detail. He assumed she was just humble until one day, the truth came out. It happened on a rainy Thursday. Daniel was working late in his workshop when a black car pulled up outside. A man in a suit stepped out and handed him a business card. "Mr. Reed, Miss Carter asked me to deliver this to you." Inside the envelope was a handwritten letter and a check. Daniel stared at the amount. $50,000. The note read, "Daniel, please don't be upset. I never told you who I really am because I didn't want it to change anything. My family owns Carter Holdings, you've probably heard of it. I know money can't fix everything, but I wanted to help you expand your business. You deserve it. Please don't push me away." He felt the world tilt. Carter Holdings. Of course. Her last name. Her family ran one of the largest real estate firms in the country. Emily wasn't just well off, she was a billionaire heiress. For a long time, he just sat there, rain tapping on the roof. He wasn't angry, just confused. Why him? Why now? He didn't cash the check. Instead, he called her. "Emily," he said softly, "I don't need your money. I just need the truth." There was silence on the line. Then her voice, trembling, "I didn't tell you because I wanted you to see me, not my last name. Daniel, you've shown me more kindness than anyone ever has. When you helped that old woman at the wedding, when you built that birdhouse with Lily just because she wanted one, those things reminded me of what life is supposed to be. You made me feel human again." A few days later, she showed up at his shop, no bodyguards, no fancy clothes, just Emily. She took his hand and said, "Let me help, not with money, but with time. Let me be part of your life." Daniel looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the same girl he once knew, the one who believed in love and kindness. From then on, Emily became a regular part of their lives. She helped Lily with her school projects, volunteered at local shelters with Daniel, and found joy in the simplicity of it all. People in town eventually found out who she really was, but Daniel didn't care. To him, she wasn't Emily Carter the billionaire. She was the woman who brought warmth back into his life. Months later, at a small park under a blooming cherry tree, Daniel proposed. Not with diamonds or fanfare, but with a wooden ring box he carved himself. "Emily," he said, voice trembling, "you once said kindness makes people human again. Well, you made me believe in it too. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face as she nodded. "Yes, Daniel. 1,000 times yes." Lily cheered from behind the tree, throwing flower petals in the air. It wasn't a grand proposal, but it was perfect. They married quietly, surrounded by close friends and neighbors. No reporters, no headlines, just love, laughter, and a promise to live life with kindness at its core. Emily donated a large portion of her wealth to help rebuild community centers and fund scholarships in their town, but she never took credit. She said it was Daniel who taught her what real generosity looked like. Years later, their story became something people whispered about with smiles. The billionaire who fell for the single dad, they'd say. But for Daniel and Emily, it wasn't about money or fate, it was about the kindness that brought them together again. Because sometimes, love doesn't come from grand gestures. It comes from small acts, helping someone when no one's watching, listening when no one else will, showing up when it's easier to walk away. Ending message. Kindness has a way of circling back, just like love. Daniel gave it freely, never expecting anything in return, and in doing so, he found something far greater than he ever imagined. So wherever you are, whatever you're facing, remember, kindness costs nothing, but it changes everything. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in second chances. You never know whose life a little kindness might change, maybe even your own. Thank you for watching, your channel name, where every story reminds you that love and kindness are never wasted.